Hey, Shard Nation, welcome back to Mosaic Life. We are currently on a break. We are hoping that you have been enjoying all the episodes of just being recapped and whatnot. And we will return whenever we want to. So, just hang out. No. But we're going through, we're bringing up our favorite episodes. We're talking about all the classics, the what do they call them? The greatest hits.
Oh.
The greatest hits. And I choose episode 2 of it's just fitting that it's episode 2 because I like to, I always did that. I'm choosing episode 2 of Mosaic, which is like, I think it's called there's Wait in the Waiting. Yes. Let me fact check this. And I'm going to do it in real time and you're going to wait because there's Wait in the Waiting. Yes, there is Wait in the Waiting. That is the name of the episode. That is about to play, but not yet because I'm not done talking. And you're going to wait for it because there's wait for that. But you are currently about to enter into a waiting period. Well, no, I guess this is still a waiting period because you've seen this episode before. Yeah. Or have you? For all the new people in Shard Nation who have discovered this in the midst of our hiatus. It's a hiatus, right? It's a vacation.
It is.
We're resting. In the midst of our rest, you have discovered our podcast. And so I like this episode a lot because it brought perspective. And it brought perspective into a season that I never wanted perspective on. I didn't ask for it. I always had felt like I was in I always put the analogy of I'm in a waiting room to go into another waiting room is how I felt in life. And so it was one of the first episodes where I sit down and I actually dig into what can I get out of waiting. And I hate waiting. And so I'm hoping that this brings fresh nutrients for you. And it probably will bring fresh nutrients for me as we rewatch these episodes together. And so enjoy it. Well, what do you want us to wait for?
What are we talking about?
Look at that.
Exactly. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Mosaic, the podcast where everything is made up and the points don't matter.
I was literally just thinking that.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
No, the podcast where we look into hard seasons and flaws and try to find a beautiful perspective. Today, I'm sitting here with my sister and her husband.
And
my
her.
Sister. No, my biological sister.
Yes.
She can attest to that.
Yes, I can.
You said that with a lot of feeling.
Yes.
Yes.
He can.
And then my brother.
Yeah. I was waiting for it. In-law.
No, he's my brother.
Just brother.
We talked about it last episode that I'm not going to say brother-in-law because you're more than a brother-in-law.
Aw. What am I?
Just a brother. No.
Like this, that sad little tag.
Okay,
on the
like,
end.
can I go into a little side story here?
Sure, go.
Um,
We just started the episode.
just
We're
started
going
the
to
episode.
a side story.
Sidebar. No, like literally the moment I met you, I immediately had this like brotherly connection with you. Like I looked up to you so much, and the more I got to know you, the more that went away. But no, just kidding. Is that the Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a good theme song for your story. I don't know why my mind jumped to Dawson's Creek.
Sure. But like, I looked up to you from a very young age. And fun fact, my sister used to lie to him and say that I wasn't allowed to go with them to hang out.
Still does.
Yes.
And she
She
still lies.
does.
I do not. It was pretty bad. Y'all's little friendship that you had.
yeah.
And I would have to be sitting there.
Wait. Why'd you do bunny ears on friendship?
Their quotation.
We really
You were
weren't
brothers.
friends.
No,
Friends.
You were always together. And you were my boyfriend. So I was mad. I was jealous.
But I was his brother-in-law.
And so I'd be sitting there while y'all are playing video games or whatever you were doing. And I'd be sitting here waiting to go on a date.
She's still waiting.
And she's no. So I want to get into what you guys do and who you are. So give a little backstory, Ruth. We kind of got a little backstory from the previous episode with Daniel.
Yeah.
And so today you're the new person.
What do I do?
What do you do?
I'm a mom of 3 kids.
That's her full time.
Yes, it's a full-time job. I am a business owner. I own a salon. Been doing hair for 18 years. And we are also pastors.
Yes, we are.
And
Why'd you look at me to confirm?
Yes,
Yeah, we're
we
still
are.
good.
We're
They
still
haven't
good.
kicked us out of the church
Y'all are
yet.
still.
We're
there.
still
in there.
pastoring.
Yep, we've been doing that for 10 years.
Uh huh.
And then I am also a foster mom. So we got lots of jobs, lots of things.
Yeah.
A lot of hats.
Yes, a lot of hats
A
that
lot
we
of
wear.
hats.
What gave you the desire to go into foster care?
Ooh,
I've actually never asked you this question before.
Yeah,
that's a long story.
long story.
Well,
We got an hour.
This is a story all about how Ruth and Daniel got turned upside down.
Yes. So I think I need it up. Okay. I'm new to this, guys. Sorry. I think that I always wanted to do foster care. I always have loved children in general. But I started having a dream, and I didn't even tell Daniel about it. It was of a little girl that I saw in a field. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go. This is a deep one.
It is a deep one, and it's a little bit hard because we're still in the waiting
Yeah.
stages. So it's a lot of this is just our perception of things that God has done inside of our lives. And so he gave me a dream, and I do not dream, number one. And then if I do dream, I don't remember it in detail like I did with this dream. And so it was a little girl in a field, and it was a wheat field. I knew that. The wind was blowing, and she was holding a little bunny rabbit. And the bunny rabbit was like tattered up. And so I was like, that's just a strange thing. Okay. And so, but it was like zooming into her eyes. And when I saw her eyes, I knew she was my daughter. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. Well, I had it like 6 more times. That same thing. Nothing else ever happened. And it was just like that face and those eyes I couldn't get out of my spirit. And so I think it was like December. We were in a conference.
Yeah.
And it was a morning service, and my mom had taken the kids. And so it was just us 2. And if you want to tell that part.
Because before that December thing, we need to give a little bit of context because Ruth and I have 3 bio kids. We have Micaiah, William, and Aaron, and we call them AJ for short because it's Aaron Josiah. And that's a whole nother episode just on their names. But we've always wanted a big family. Ruth and I come from a family of 4 kids. Me being the 4th, or you know what I mean. And then y'all come from a family of 3. And so we both wanted big families. We both said that we wanted 5 kids. And so it was going to be a fun little Hennessee house. And we had a little bit of disappointment with our firstborn. She had the cord wrapped around her 3 times, and she went in for that last sonogram or ultrasound, and the doctor said we got to get her out. And so because if she turns,
she had stopped growing.
Yeah.
And then they didn't want her to go into the birthing canal because it would kill her.
Yeah. So we had to start off with the C-section in the way that we are here. We have a rural hospital in Palestine, and there's not a full-time NICU team, and we can't do a natural delivery after you do a C-section. And plus, it's not safe for mom.
And for me, I had a anomaly because I had 2 uteruses. So
yes.
it was like they didn't want to test anything on me.
You're finding out all kinds of stuff, Sam.
No,
Yes.
it's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure you're not
and
going to
so they didn't want to do anything. Everything was because they didn't know how to take me because they've never had somebody that had this problem.
Yeah.
It's super rare to have
Very
2.
rare. Yes.
Super rare.
Very
Do you know
rare.
the percentage on that?
Like
13% out of 458 billion people. I have no idea. I just made that up.
I mean, they're like, I'm
mean-
going with it.
It sounded legit.
It sounded.
I don't know.
So
99.9% of statistics are all made up on the spot. So
exactly. Abraham Lincoln said that.
Abraham Lincoln
Yes.
said that.
But anyway, so we have our 3 bio kids and Micaiah coming out first. They said if she turns, it's going to kill her. And so we didn't want her to turn inside mom. So we scheduled the C-section pretty immediate. Her birth weight was like 4 pounds and change. And then like by the time we left the hospital, it was like 4 or 5 or something. Yeah, so she was a little tiny baby. Like I could hold her in my hand and like a little down past my wrist. She was itty bitty bitty. And so, and now she's like she's taller than Ruth now,
Yes,
which is hilarious to watch her punk her mom. But, so Micaiah was first. William had some tough goes. We'll talk about that on a different episode. And then AJ was like our wonderful child, no issues, perfect birth. But number 3, you can't have more than 3 C-sections because of the trauma that it causes mom from blood loss and everything else.
Really?
Yeah.
And the thinning of the uterus.
So it doesn't matter how long between. It's just 3 and then done.
Yeah,
that's what they tell you.
You'll see.
Couldn't use your second uterus?
No.
You can't just pop another out or something.
I mean, God gave you 2 for a reason. I feel like. No, just kidding.
We just gonna throw another kid in the oven. But anyway, so yeah.
And then I had complications after the fact, and then ended up having to have a hysterectomy. So,
and that was a tough journey. And I mean, you can talk more about that if you want to.
Yeah, I just was on. They don't know why I got endometriosis after the 3rd one, which is like it's horrible. Your uterus lining, and it causes severe pain. And I was on multiple prescription pain meds for about a year before we decided to take the hysterectomy.
It was continuous pain for a year?
It was every time I got my cycle. I was in bed for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I have a very high pain tolerance.
Yes.
I don't take pain meds. Like even if I have a headache, I just power through.
Yeah.
So it was where I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard. And I didn't want to live like that.
Yeah.
And so the only other option was a hysterectomy. And so we made the decision that that's what we were going to do.
Did you know going into that y'all were going to look at doing foster care, or did that come later?
We had talked about adopting.
We talked about adopting years ago with always the understanding that we're going to have 5 bio kids. And once we have our children, then once we're in our 50s or 60s or something like that, we always wanted to like have some kids at our house and stuff because we always love a big house with our life groups, and we had home churches and stuff. We always had people in our house. And so we liked that always going into it. But then rubber met the road, and it was like, well, you can't have any more bio kids because of all the complications that we're going through.
When you heard that and you found out like, okay, I cannot and we will not have 5 bio kids, I can only imagine like there's a bunch of disappointment that came with that.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that disappointment? And like, did you turn into God or did you turn away from God in that? Not saying like abandon him, but like.
Right. That's a loaded question because we would like to say that we didn't, but at the same time, there was many conversations. I mean,
I was frustrated.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I was angry at times.
Everything. It was not just, people are like, oh yeah, you're mad at God. No, you're mad at yourself. Okay. If I would have done this, or if we wouldn't have made that decision, or.
Did you blame yourself? Like, did that side of it come up, or like your body?
No, I never blamed myself. I never blamed God even, like, because I tried to make every decision, like going into it, I tried to weigh all the options and do all of that. And, I was given specific words that helped me to accept it. I did have a problem with losing my uterus, which is like you don't think about it, but as a woman, it was like, that's how I'm a woman because of that. And it gave me all my children. And so I had to go to therapy just to get past the thought of like losing that part of me. Yeah. And so that was very, very hard. A lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Cause, just all of a sudden I'm an old lady is what I felt like. Like I can't give kids anymore.
Yeah.
And then I even thought like, I just thought down the road, if something were to happen, I would never be able to do that again.
Yeah.
And so it was just a lot of things that bombarded me. But I did know that was the best decision for my health. And I knew that was the journey I was supposed to go on. And so but before we had done the hysterectomy, I told him, I feel like I need that, like going into like us adopting, we need to start that process because it is a long process. We need to start that because I felt like that was what's going to help me get through the hysterectomy and everything else. And so we went to a class.
Well, before that, I was...
Sorry, I jumped.
No, it's fine because all this was happening within the span of like a year and a half to 2 years. After AJ, then came the hysterectomy within 1 year. And we're like, that was a hard blow for me because it was kind of a final thing. It was like barring a miracle and you miraculously carry it in your hip. Right. I don't know how you're going to carry a baby. And so I was like thinking of this big family, like all the promises of God of having a big family. And I'm like, okay, how is this going to happen? And he obviously had other plans because we're like, okay, I guess we're going to look at this adopting, not even fostering. We're going to look at this adopting journey a little bit sooner. And then I still wasn't ready up until a point of we found it was a class in Tyler. And it was like on the evening, we're like, we'll just go do a little date night. We'll go over there, listen to this information that they have, which is pretty cool because it was like a collective. It was like 10 agencies for fostering that were there. And they were going to talk about adoption and things like that. So we were just like, let's just go check it out. I took off work a little bit early that day from the hospital, came over, and we headed to Tyler. And I mean, you can pick up there. We're sitting in the class. And they put on this video. It's probably the saddest video. And it's not like the Sarah McLachlan in the eyes. It was like, it was statistics. And it showed this little girl in the video who was an actor, but it showed all the stuff she was dealing with in that video. And it showed her point of view. The whole video was her parents fighting, then the cops showing up in CPS and her getting everything removed. They can only get enough to like shove inside a trash bag, which really happens in some of these cases we've had that they show up with. The last one placements we had showed up with one blanket, a diaper, and a pacifier. Wow. And anyway, we're watching this video, and I'm like, "You're not crying. I'm crying." And it was
hard. It was really hard to watch.
And so we're sitting there, and Ruth and I are like, what?
I'm sorry. You said you're not crying. I'm crying.
I meant it that way.
I'm not crying.
Everybody in that room was crying. So
yeah.
Unless you were heartless.
It just tickled me.
We were all crying together.
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
No, it was gut wrenching. And when we're sitting there, we're like, okay, God, did you allow all of these steps to happen so we can look at this? Because we knew we wanted to adopt, but we didn't know it was going to be this fostering and adoption route that way. Yeah. And so anyway, we left that night, had our hearts really turned on to the side of, okay, let's carefully consider adoption. That was a journey in itself because of, I felt like both of our families were receptive of it. Some people were not. We were preparing our hearts for people that were not going to be excited about getting your guts ripped out.
How do you prepare for that?
For what?
For the people who aren't going to be receptive of it.
You take a knife and just poke yourself constantly so you get used to the feeling.
Yeah.
And we just looked at each other and we're like, we're going to have people that are going to be our friends that are going to say, hey, we don't like this. We don't agree with it, yada, yada. And then we're going to have people that are going to agree with this. And 99% of the people in our community, family, friends, church, siblings, everybody was like, heck yeah, this is the right move. Like there was such a grace on it. And we just had a few naysayers about it. And we soon got over that because we knew it was God's heart for it to happen that way. And so all of this happened and we were preparing and thinking about this stuff. And then the conference came, which was a Breath of Heaven conference that Jeff Collins puts on and, not Breath of Heaven, camp meetings. And so anyway, we went to this meeting and Ruth had been having this dream about this girl that she didn't tell me about, kind of a secret. And I went into this conference not expecting any of that. And as I'm standing there in worship, it's like God, I don't know what you call it or what you want to call it. It was like it was a vision / dream. It was like I stepped into something that I knew was from God. Yeah. And so I was at complete peace and just like inside this vision with God. And he showed me he was building humans, like babies, putting them together and like sewing them and like forming them. And it was the coolest thing. And when he was doing these body parts and putting stuff together, I just like went up to him casually and was like, okay, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm forming children, making babies. And I was like, oh, and what is this one here? And he said, this one is yours. And then he told me the name, which we don't share very often, but the name was Jezreel, which I was thinking Jezebel at first. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Start praying
you can keep that one up here. I don't want that kiddo. But he said, this is Jezreel. And he said, this is yours here. And then he sent her down and toward earth. And it was like, this is the one that I prepared for you. And then I came out of that vision. I was like, that was the weirdest crap I've ever seen. So anyways, I went over to Ruth and I was like, I shared the whole thing I told you. And then she told me the dream she had about a little girl. For the first time. Wow. And the girl that I saw that God was forming was the same description of the girl that she saw, like down to the hair, the eyes, everything, the way she looked. And she told me what she looked like. And I was like, man, this is pretty crazy. And then long story short, we talked to...
Pause though. We looked up the name Jezreel.
Yeah.
Or Jezreel. I don't know how you say it. And it actually means God has sown.
Wow.
SEWN. And so that's like what, one, how do you make that up?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And so then I looked at, because I like to figure things out. I like to, God gives me a little information and I go researching. And so I was looking up the name and then it showed pictures of the valley of Jezreel in Israel. Yeah. And when I clicked on them, it was the wheat field.
Really?
That I actually saw her in, like that picture. I'm like, that's where she was standing. Like, this is the exact picture. Like, and so how did I know? Yeah. Like, just all these little pieces that were just like something you can't.
So
make
Jezreel is an actual place. It's a physical place.
It's where the last battle in Armageddon will take place. Is the valley of Jezreel, or it's a physical place in Israel. Yeah. And so that, like, when we saw that, I don't know. Which is weird with adoption and fostering. You can't adopt a Jewish child, I don't believe. And we didn't know if the child would have, some ties in Israel. We don't know if her ministry is going to be part with Israel. We just know that we heard that name. We saw what she looks like. And so ever since then, we began a whole long journey of home studies. And if any of y'all are foster parents or have dealt with that, it's a huge process, which is so sad because there's such a need for it. And I think that's what deters a lot of people, not just getting your guts ripped out every time you have a placement, but of having so much paperwork and red tape you have to walk through on just having a child in your home when you really want to be a loving parent. So anyway, that's where we stepped through with that one. And the fun part about Mosaic is that you don't have all the answers. And we're literally still in this journey waiting for our baby girl. We're still talking about the gut wrenching. We're still having placements come into our house and giving them a safe place and loving them like Jesus loves them. And that was one of the things that they said with the fostering, kind of that journey was you have just a moment in time to sow the love of Christ in these little ones, and they may not remember you, but is it worth it to sow that seed inside their heart that they're going to carry with them through eternity? And the answer is, it is so worth it, but it's not easy. It's not fun. It's lots of sleepless nights. It's lots of screaming kids and kids that don't understand and they just want their mommy or daddy. It's tough. It's
a lot of trauma.
A lot of trauma. But we're on that journey and we're still looking for our daughter and waiting for our daughter. And so that's where we're sitting right now. To answer your question about fostering, that was it.
No, it's good. It's a beautiful thing to watch you guys do this. From my perspective, like, it's unbelievably courageous, and I can't imagine what it's like to receive someone into your home and care for them as if they are your own, and then have to have a day where you say goodbye to them.
Yeah.
And for people who are interested in this, do you guys have any kind of wisdom or like, how did you guys prepare for that?
You can't prepare.
Yeah.
No.
So it's like everybody says, I could never do what you do. And that's kind of one of the worst sayings that we hate because
it's like a slap in your face
Yeah.
when somebody says the words, "Oh, I don't know how y'all do that. I could never do that. I'm so glad that y'all do that." Because to us, you hear this in your ears.
there's not like what's any different from us.
Yeah. You're heartless.
Right.
You
We're
don't
not
have a heart,
yeah.
so that's why you're
how you
able
can
to
give.
do it. I'm like, well, thanks.
We're not heartless. And it is like every emotion and feeling, just you from the outside feeling it and looking in, we have to go
Same.
through that. And so every feeling of like you give everything to this child and then they're taken from you. And then, so that's one, you're having to work on your own grief. And then grief with our kids because they get attached too. That's really, really, really hard because I can do it, but I hate seeing my kids have to go through it.
Because it's like their brother. Our first placement we ever had, he was with us for almost a year. So we
got him day 2 of his life.
He came home from the hospital to us. And so we were his first for everything. The first one he smiled at, the ones that he's cooing and trying to talk and crawling and everything. We saw all of his first. And then it was like literally with fostering, they pull them that fast. It's within a day. And that was a hard one.
You don't get any kind of heads up or...
No, they call and they're like, hey, we got to come. And sometimes they'll give you like 24 hours or something to like, and we asked them last time, the placement we had before this one, where we're like, can we have at least, 24 hours? Can y'all come tomorrow afternoon so my kids and I, we can all have one more evening together as a family?
But it's court mandated. So the judge says when and where it happens. And so like with the last one that left, she had to be somewhere by 3 p.m. that day.
Yeah.
So and we were in court 2 hours away.
Yeah.
So you have to rush home.
Like 30 minutes to say goodbye to this child that's been in your home. That one for like 3 months, 4 months.
And then get all her stuff together, pack everything up, and then...
you were in court. Do you have to go to the court hearings?
You do not. I choose to, though, because...
Because it's my wife.
Like I said, I need all the information.
You ever watch the show Matlock?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but...
So I go...
It took place in the courtroom?
It took place in the courtroom. Ruth is Matlock. She wants to see.
No, with the wonderful CPS and everything that goes on, you don't get all the information. And then somebody will give it back to you. It could be half truth. It could be what someone said, what they didn't say. So I like to go just so I know exactly what's going on. And so I can figure out what's going on with everybody in the case and try to be the best advocate for the child.
Because there's such a shortage with helpers and workers and social workers and everything that it's probably in your best interest to go to court, because they're so spread thin that they may have like 5 cases that day that they're doing and they can't get back with you. So if you want to know stuff about your foster kid, you need to go to court.
Yeah. So that's why I go. So I know firsthand what's going on. So
as you're going through this journey and you're sitting in this season of waiting, is what I keep hearing. It's like a waiting room, almost like the DMV, but you have no idea when your number's called.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have no idea if you are next in line or if you are 450th in line.
Yeah.
And how do you get through? Like, my instincts is stay occupied, like distract, to not think about the waiting. Is that the tactic that you guys take in this, or how are you guys waiting?
The hardest thing, I would say, now that we're into it, like right now, let me back up, because when we first started, there's such a hope and an expectancy of like, oh, this is going to be a short journey. We're going to have our daughter. This is going to be great. And then those weeks turn into months, turn into now years. And so now it's kind of a dual disappointment, because not only do you have the waiting you're waiting for, you see the baby crib in your house, and you see the children's clothes and the other stuff, and you see your own bio kids growing up, and you're thinking, you have these feelings, just being raw and real, like you feel like you're losing time with your next daughter you're going to have. Not only that, but then also when those kids do leave your house and you get that gut wrench and the trauma and all the other stuff of losing really one of your children that has to go away now, then you're now dealing with the disappointment of, did we really hear God? Did I really see that vision? Did we? All those doubts start coming up in your head. And that's the hardest for me. That's the hardest thing to deal with is, did I really hear God on this? Is this the direction we're really supposed to be going? And I'm just being raw and real, because like up until these podcast episodes, like we're still this week talking, okay, do we shift now? Do we just go to straight adoption? Do we maybe put this on the back burner for right now for this season? And then the questions of, okay, God, why did you even bring us into this if nothing's going to come out of it? And trying to rationalize everything of the whys. Anyway, sorry that's really heavy.
No, this is good.
For me, I do things differently. So
What?
I know. I think I can help God. So I think he needs my help for me to like stick my hands in there and like mix it up, like, because he's not working fast enough in my life that I think. And so or I didn't do something properly, so I need to like reposition to like get in the best area. Yeah. I don't know. Like that's how my brain has been. And so I get to these spots of anxiousness of just like, okay, like nothing's been going. We haven't been getting calls. Like what, maybe I need to call them and see if we're still on the list. Like I try to like do stuff to keep it busy. And there's some days where I just have to like stop my mind, because I like to think all the scenarios and try and figure everything out. And it's like, it can drive you crazy in a way. And so I just have to stop my mind and be like, it's in his hands. Like I am not going to miss it. I'm not going to miss her. It's not something that I'm going to be tricked into because I didn't read the fine print or something like that. Like I just have to, at the end of the day, I have to trust him. I have to trust that everything that we've heard is not coincidence. Like there's no way to make up all the things. And I just believe 100% that it's him working and that he's going to bring her when it's the perfect timing. And I've learned through a lot of different areas in my life that when you get to the other side of his timing and can look back, you can see all the whys and all the dots that line up. And you're like, okay, that's why he did this and this and this. And okay, I see the bigger picture. I see the mosaic of all the broken things. And so that's just, it's hard to get to the bigger picture though, to wait for that. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. It's actually what I want to dig into, I think, for this episode. Because I think there's a lot of people who are in the waiting for whatever season they're going through right now. And there's that fear of missing out. There's that I feel like I'm losing time with. Yeah. And I feel like if it was here already, I could optimize on the time spent.
Right.
And so, cliche little single man over here. For me, it's my wife. It's my desire for a family as well. And I'm 33 years old, and I'm like, okay, God, like I don't see this coming anytime soon, or in any way. And I so badly want to be a father. By the time I do have kids, I'm losing time with them. I'm losing time with them. I'm losing time with my wife. And so, like, I think we can dig into this dynamic and try to find the beauty in the waiting, which I personally don't want to do because I'm sick and tired of waiting. And it's like you said, like you get to the point where you're just frustrated with it, and I can't change this. I can't make this happen faster. And I think as human beings, we try so hard to make things happen in our lives. And it's almost like I want to juxtapose like the idea of I need to clean myself up before I appear to God. And I need to make things happen in my life. Like I feel like there's a common thing there as well, because as you were saying, like I want to make this happen, or like I feel like I have to get right to be in the right place, and we can't clean ourselves up in our lives. And like it's just, that's the statement. Like we can't do it.
Yeah.
We can try, but it's not gonna, more times than not, we end up making ourselves messier. And adding more to our plate. And so there has to be a sense of surrender, I think. And a surrender and waiting looks very similar in my visual mind. Where if I surrender and I'm waiting, it's almost like a I have a movie scene.
Go for it.
I'm
ready.
It's a terrible movie. The Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, when the force fields close and Qui-Gon Jinn is facing Darth Maul. Yeah.
Ruth, you're keeping up with this, right?
Yeah, you got this, right?
Ruth's got this.
Ruth's a nerd, so
Ruth knows exactly.
She knows exactly what I'm talking about. Where he just kneels down.
Right.
Because there's nothing else he can do.
Ooh, that's good.
He has to just simply wait.
Yep.
And that also looks like surrender.
Yeah.
And so how do we wait? My brain wants to say, how do we wait efficiently?
I was going to say wait effectively. That's really
That's
good.
better.
That's good.
I think number one is realizing our need for control.
Yep.
Because when you don't feel like you're in control of the situation or it's in somebody else's hands, then there's always like that, like just anxiety. Like, oh, is this going to happen or is this going to happen? And then when you surrender that, it's surrendering your will, it's surrendering your emotions, it's surrendering all of that to him.
Oh, that's good.
Of like when he wants to move, then we're going to move. And you can wait. I feel like you can wait good. Is it bad? It keeps going down. You can wait good and you can wait bad, I feel. That's my opinion.
Scripture says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, and they'll mount up with wings as eagles. They'll run and not grow weary, and they'll walk and not faint. And that waiting that it's talking about there, your dad has said this so much. Bill is our dad. I say he's my dad, not my dad-in-law, like Sam calls him. But he's said several times, so it's ingrained in my memory, that waiting, they that wait, it's not like what we think in terms of sitting in one place. It's an action term. It's like you're doing something actively at that point. And so it's not like you're just sitting around, but you're actually praying for something or pushing for something or taking steps in that direction, waiting on the Lord and actually doing something while you're waiting on him to move. And in terms of like, whether it be your wife or children or waiting for our child to get here, I think that's one of the hardest challenges that you can step into is, okay, God, are you actually going to do this? Is that actually going to happen? And I think that's where trust comes in. And that's, like I said on the last episode, that's one of the things I have the hardest time with is, God, I actually trust you in this season. I trust that you're going to give me the wings as eagles in the end, but I'm going to actually have to sit here and walk this thing out. And we see it modeled in Scripture. Like, you can't tell me that Abraham bringing Isaac to go sacrifice him, and it's like a 3-day journey to get to that mountain. Like, he was having some second thoughts. Right. And like, God, you promised this, this, and this, and then now I'm about to kill my own son. And like, he was dealing with a major internal battle himself, the same way that you're dealing with a battle right now of, God, I'm wasting this time, and this time. And that whole time that Abraham's bringing his son, God is growing the horns on that ram to make sure it's the perfect moment to capture that ram in the bush. And
That's good.
we don't see the ram in the bush. We see the 3-day journey of I'm about to go kill my son. Yeah. You don't see that bride and those kids you're going to have. You see, I'm having to be stuck in Palestine of all places and wait for my stinking wife. And I feel like I'm wasting time and going back in history, but you don't see the mosaic and you don't see like where this is going to touch people's lives. And
yeah, I literally was telling someone that I feel like my life is moving backwards. And because I've gone through 2 divorces. And so like I've been close to seeing that dream fulfilled, to only have it go away.
Yeah.
And I definitely had parts to play in it. And it's like, then you have the shame cycle on top of it, right? Like you have like the guilt that you have to go through. And then at the same time, you're just like, I was so close and then I messed it up. I was so close and then it was gone. And so it's like, I'm going in reverse. And it's a hard thing to grieve. It's a hard thing to process. It's interesting that you bring up Isaac. I had a friend of mine who, if you take like chronologically, because a lot of times we think that Isaac was this little boy, and he wasn't. He's like about 20 something years old when he's about to be sacrificed. And so he has to lay there willingly and also trust God.
Yeah.
And say good. Like, okay, like I am on a sacrificial table.
That's good.
And there's no sacrifice that I see, but I know my Father.
Yeah.
And I know that he hears God.
Yeah.
So I have to trust that.
That's good.
And there's just so many levels to this trust. And it's difficult. It is one of the hardest things I think that we have to do as human beings is trust God and to know like he has our best interests at heart. I think my thought that tries to combat that is, do I have a vision for my life that's not the best thing for my life? And is this actually coming for me? Or is this just something that I dreamt up? And like that thought comes in and I have a hard time. I think it's in the vein of feeling unworthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, have I disqualified myself from this already? I definitely fight that a lot. And it's like, okay, God, like, can you disqualify yourself from purpose? Can you disqualify yourself from the destiny that God has for you? And I think the answer of that is like, no, like we can't become too dirty that God doesn't love us, right?
Right.
And so then it's very difficult, and literally like as I'm sitting here, like my brain's like, then how does it happen? like it's a irritable place to sit in. It's
right.
a almost helpless, or not helpless but hopeless feeling.
In terms of
in terms that you don't have any control. So to go back to what Ruth was saying, like we are creatures of control and like we desire that because I think we see safety in it. And so how do you have similar like moments, and how do you combat that?
It's interesting you said that, because when you said we're creatures of control and that's like what we crave. And my problem with being like, if you do the DISC assessment, I'm a high S. And so I love my systems and I love my plans and stuff, but I actually find safety in that my disconnect is that I find safety in that God is in control. In that when you said you feel helpless sometimes or hopeless because did you screw up too much and God still loves you? Well, yeah, his love is always going to be there. And he has, because he knows the plans he has for you for a hope in the future. That's the word. And he has plan A, B, C, D. My thing is that I have a hard time trusting in his plan, but I have no doubt that God has a plan. And that actually brings reassurance to me because I'm not like when something goes wrong or awry in my life, I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is really screwed up. But then I always come back to, well, I know God sees it, number one, because his name is Elroy. It's like the most country name.
Leroy.
Leroy. We're making fun of the name of God, guys. Let's calm down on here. I can't handle any blasphemy. Well, when I said his name, I was like, man, he's East Texan. So,
Elroy.
That name, Elroy, means the God who sees. And he actually sees you in that place. And the safety I find is that he is always going to have another plan. And I don't have to have control. I actually like it when somebody says, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. Like on our vacations, I always come up with an itinerary. I'm like, we're going to do this and this, and we're going to do this at this time. And I love that structure.
Yeah, there's no relaxing in vacation mode.
Nope. Hey, but we come up with some memories. So anyway, the time I made her hike halfway across Austin so we could go eat at a diner.
Oh, I've hiked up mountains. I've done things I've never done. We don't work. I've started working out before vacations because of him.
I was like, man, I really want to see these oil pots at the top of this mountain that we were supposed to go up. We made it up halfway. She's
in
like,
the ice and snow.
I just give up. I'm just going to sit right
I was
here.
like, I'm going to sit on this bench. When you want to come back down, come get me.
I literally left her there for like a minute and I was going to walk off and I was like, we're on our like, lovey-dovey anniversary thing. I probably don't need to leave her. So I went back and I never saw the oil pots. But anyway, I digress. So I love it that God has these plans. I just have a hard time that he actually knows the timing. Maybe I need to help him with that time of the plan.
I also, my mind's going in several different directions.
Yeah.
But I want to get away from that, because sometimes we can fall into the rut of God has a plan for my life.
Ooh, come on.
Right.
It's like this one
linear
thing that I have to find this path. I have to find this one thing. Yep. And then when I find that, and if I do anything, then I'm going to knock myself off or it's going to destroy my plot that I had, that God has for me. Yep. And I just look at the children of Israel and it took them 40 years to get to the promised land. Yeah. I feel like God knew that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. He saw everything and he's and they could have made a different decision and God would be like, okay, we're going this way now. Yeah. So he just doesn't, I don't think that there's this one plan for our life and we're going to derail if we miss this, and this, right. So.
But he's a God of process and he wants you to go through that process because then it says that it would have killed them if they went in too early. And that's the hard thing that I have to deal with is leaving my process of how Daniel processes things and then being with Holy Spirit. Okay, Holy Spirit, how do you want to process that we don't have our daughter that we've been waiting on for years now? And how do I process, God, that you're going to allow these things to happen where we can only have 3 bio kids? I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road, where we really don't have an answer for our audience or you or anybody. We're just we're figuring this thing out day by day. I don't know why I sounded like this. When you figure things out,
that's what you sound like.
We're figuring it
out. No, I think it's Brene Brown who talks about being the map maker and the traveler. So you're literally...
Wow, that took me a minute to process.
Yeah, you're literally taking a step where no one else has ever taken a step, and you're jotting down, okay, it's safe to go here. Yeah. And you are doing that with every single step that you take because the ones behind you, they need a map. Yeah. But nobody has been here yet. And so you're navigating this for the first time. And there's grace for yourself in that season. There's grace for like, okay, don't step there. That's just as
This is the planning side of Daniel where my alarm goes off. We just hit stop.
No. It stopped the video, but we're still recording. So you're seeing me. I am failing here. Ruth, can you help me?
Did it work?
No, I am in. I'm timing you now. You can just turn it around. Yeah. And so.
I'm so sorry.
Literally,
guys.
this is we are navigating this situation right now for you guys, and trying to figure out.
Would you like the owner of the phone to do this? I'm just throwing that out there because there may be another alarm that goes off on my phone.
Oh yeah, you set like 17 alarms, don't you?
People that don't know this about me, I set lots and lots of alarms because a certain company made these phones and said, hey, we're going to do reminders, and they were amazing. And then they made it where you don't have these reminders anymore. So, anyway.
There's no more reminders on iPhones?
There is, but they used to make it where you had to actually clear it.
Yeah.
And they don't have that anymore.
That's really sad.
I know. So now instead of
I say it's sad and I never used it, so I don't need reminders. I want my phone to be quiet.
I'll go back to, there you go.
Turn it sideways before you hit record, though. Y'all get to see a little bit behind the scenes.
Oh, no, he didn't?
No, not for this one.
There.
I'm sorry.
All right,
you're
now
fine.
it's back on one.
Oh, gosh.
You have it turned the wrong way.
Oh, I do? Oh, yeah, I do. Whoops.
Now it's upside down.
What am I doing?
I don't know.
I love it. I'm here for it.
You want me to hold it for you?
Yeah, can you hold it? I just need to come up. Okay.
All right.
Sam, you're going to have to... Can you see it?
It's a little uneven now. That's okay. This is the coolest episode.
Oh man, I think they're loving it. They're loving it. Okay. This is the fun side of figuring it out. Talking about navigating and figuring things out. We are literally trying to navigate. This is the what is the Pink Panther movie where he's trying to put the light bulb in the lamp and it keeps spitting it out. That's exactly what Ruth was just doing.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good?
It's good, but Daniel's not in focus. And neither
That is okay.
Oh no.
Oof. My earring.
I've messed up. My finger's too fat. Can you please tap one? Okay, thank you. Good? There we go. All right, we are good.
Whew.
All because Daniel loves planning.
He loves
he
planning,
does.
and that's a side story since this whole thing has been a side
It
little
really
trail. That's one of my favorite things about these episodes is that Daniel does not get to plan these. And so we get to sit down. Like literally he tried. This is the second episode that we've recorded today. We just finished the first episode. And in between the time of recording, Daniel was like, hey, so do you want to talk about XYZ? And I said, hey, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk. It's literally what I said to him.
I almost got him to commit. And then he was like, wait a minute. Daniel wants a plan.
Yeah.
Nope.
No. We're winging this.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Because it's a beautiful thing, honestly. And I don't think that we would have gotten to where we've gotten in this episode if we had like, oh, we're going to talk about anxiety or like something like that. Like I love the free flow, ebb and flow of just natural conversations. And I think that that is a beautiful thing that the Lord can use and step into. And we might think they're rabbit trails, but like someone on the other side of this needs to hear whatever. Like they needed to see Ruth fumble with that phone.
They needed that.
And maybe it's like the imperfections. Like, and that's what I love about Mosaics is it's the shattered pieces that fit. And in a world where everyone is telling you, or rather, we are telling ourselves.
It sounded like the beginning of
in a world. Like I was tracking.
In a world
where we have so much pressure to be perfect. Ooh. And we put it on ourselves, and it's perceived at least that others put it on ourselves as well.
Yep.
That I have to be perfect for you.
Ooh.
And that's so not true.
That's true.
I use this analogy a lot, but John Legend, you guys know John Legend? Daniel does not know.
I love John Legend.
Do you?
I love him.
Do you?
I don't know.
I just get really serious about that.
When Sam turns his head, he's being serious. Okay. Now, seriously? I have no idea who John Legend is.
John Legend's a singer. That's all you need to know for this analogy to
Okay.
work. Okay. So if
John
he
Legend.
is on a platform and it's a small, intimate little room and you're one of 50 people and you get to hear this guy sing with the most angelic voice anyone's ever had.
Yep. He's amazing.
And it's funny knowing that you have no idea who he is.
He was the Beatles or something.
No, he was not. That's John Lennon.
Shut up.
Okay, anyways. If he messes up on a note, he probably gets off that stage, says, man, I really messed up that note.
Yeah.
Like I fell flat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone else watching that show, in that moment when he messes up on a note, they go, oh my God, he's human.
Mm.
And they actually connect more to him in his flaw than they did in his perfect notes that he had beforehand.
Wow.
So it's actually the flaws that bring connection and tell me I can relate to this guy now.
Wow.
I can see myself in this story now. If he hits that note and it's messed up a little bit, I know I hit notes and I mess up a lot. So I think if I keep practicing, I can get to where he's at.
So answer me this. Why are people so freaking judgmental? When somebody screws up or somebody, let's say just as like pastoring, because Ruth and I pastor, why are people so mean sometimes? And I'm not speaking from personal experience. No, I'm just like, answer me that. Like, why? Is it because they're afraid of their own failure?
So we don't do answers on Mosaic. And
You're right. You're right.
we don't do
Never mind.
I genuinely believe that it is us projecting ourselves onto other people. I fully believe that. You can't mess up because I can't mess up. You have to be perfect because I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so my standard is now your standard. And your standard is now my standard.
Wow.
So I need you not to mess up because I'm barely holding it together.
Whoa.
And so like I think it's high stress. I think it's people who need to breathe. And they have probably a lot more pressure on themselves than they ever will let anyone see into.
Yeah.
And that can give us empathy for them. So it's like,
wow.
I now understand you have put so much pressure on you that you think that everyone else has to be just like you. Or you feel like if you fail, the whole world's going to crumble.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We are not holding this thing together.
Yeah.
And there's something to another movie, Fight Club.
I've seen Fight Club. Okay.
Ruth loves Fight Club. It's her favorite movie.
She actually started a Fight Club,
She
but we don't
absolutely-
talk about it.
She absolutely loves it. There's a moment in the movie where like they're doing their recruits or whatnot.
Yeah.
And he says, I want you guys this week to go pick a fight and lose. And that was the thing. Like, if I do something, it's like go out and fail on purpose.
Wow.
Nobody's doing that. Nobody's like really like thinking, oh, I got to go fail. I got to go be successful.
Right.
I have to go achieve.
Because it's so looked down on.
Because it's so looked down on to fail.
Right.
And failure is really interesting. And I have a dear friend, Noah, who I have wonderful conversations with. And he brought me the perspective of it's not failure if you learn something.
It's good.
And I was like, that's amazing to me because that means that there are things that I have labeled as success that are actually failures because I didn't learn anything from it.
Wow.
because everything went right and I didn't need to learn anything.
Bro, that's good.
And so I actually failed in that, even though the outside world will look at it and say that was a success.
Mm-hmm.
I was autopilot and didn't learn anything.
Wow.
And so like I love seeing different dynamics like that in it. For instance, I'm in a group therapy. Well, it's like process group therapy, but it's called leadership coaching. But to me, it's process group therapy, and that's how I'm approaching this. Just so you know. So everyone has self-saboteurs.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's a test that they send out before, and you get to figure out like, oh, these are your top self-saboteurs. Well, one of the leadership coaches made the statement that like avoider, she has 0 % on. And her co-host or co-leader was like, I wish you'd have some. And it was like this hilarious moment. We all laughed. It's like, we don't have to attack everything. We can avoid some things. Like,
yeah.
But it was like, oh, that's interesting to me, because it made me go back and look at what I have 0 on that I'm actually like needing to find the value of it.
Wow.
And so like a big one for me that I have 0 on, and I can't look on my phone because we're recording with it. It's like 1995 up in here. We have
just set your alarm and then you can pull it off. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It's like a active achiever, I think is what I have 0 on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I could benefit from the planning and the structure that I do not do, and I don't have. Avoider's my top. And so I want to avoid at all costs. But it's just, if you look at it differently and you see the value in the failures, and then you see like, oh, I could bring in a little bit more of what I'm hating to better my life. And I think that human beings, we don't want to be flawed. We don't want imperfections. But I don't think that anyone's truly unique unless they have them.
Yeah.
Because then you're just copy pasted cookie cutter houses, and nobody likes those neighborhoods.
Nope.
You want houses with personality. Tell me about the crack in this wall and the story behind it.
Tell me about this foundation falling down.
Yeah, no. Get out of your house. You shouldn't be. This is unlivable. This is condemned.
This is a condemned house. We should not be here.
Tell me about this shards of glass hanging from the ceiling.
Tell me about the dead body behind the wall. Now, what you're giving a picture of, and you can hop in, is just a picture of the church. Like, because nobody has it all together. And then we're in 1995, like you said. I don't have my phone, but there's a scripture somewhere in there that, and y'all can look it up later. It's talking about the barn that doesn't have cows is clean. All right, I'm butchering this verse, but the barn that has cows in it is super dirty because there's crap in it. But a lot of good comes from the cows being in the barn. In other words, a lot of good comes from people being inside your life. There's going to be a lot of cow crap, but at the same time, you're going to get a lot of benefit of having the cows there, of plowing fields and doing all the work and stuff that they do. And I have more pity on the people that inside their lives are spick and span and clean, but they don't let people in. Rather than the people that have a ton of crap in their life. They don't have it figured out. It looks like the Mosaic, but it's beautiful because of the amount of work that you're getting done for the kingdom, that you're changing lives, you're changing hearts, you're changing the community, but it's messy. And it's okay to be messy because you love people in their mess.
Yeah.
That really makes me think, to kind of circle back to the waiting thing, and ask the question of, do I feel like the impatience and the irritableness of my waiting season, do I feel that because I think that I'm flawed without a spouse?
Whoa.
do I think that I'm flawed without a family? And that they would be a piece that I need to be whole.
Whoa.
And vice versa. Like, would you feel like you're flawed without your kid?
Wow. You're tracking, man.
Or do you feel like I can be whole even if it doesn't happen? Which is something you really don't want to hear. Something like I definitely don't want to hear. Like, if it doesn't happen, can I still be whole? And I think that is truly where you actually trust God.
Yeah.
Well, that's a picture of surrender.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because that's when you fully put yourself on the table and be like, I'm not moving till you move. Because that's true surrender. When you're not after a goal and you're not after this.
Will you, because as you were saying that, it triggered my memory of something that the Lord brought you to. Will you share your story of the altar? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Oh, for my business?
Just the
It was
what he showed you.
Yeah, so it was probably when we first got married.
Yeah.
And I had Micaiah, and I've always had business on my mind. I've always had business in my heart. And from a little girl, I knew I was going to be a hairdresser, and I wanted to own my own salon. And God was wrestling with me. I was wrestling with him is what I should say. On like surrendering that and giving it to him. And I thought I had surrendered it, and I kept, okay, God, that's in your hands. But like, I still would look at real estate. I still would look at all the things of maybe this could be the road, or maybe this could be the road. And then we had a building downtown in Palestine burned to the ground. And my friend was at the location, and she said she had videoed it, and she was like a block away. And she said she could feel the heat from a block away of this building. And when I was watching the building burn to the ground, God instantly said, that's an altar. Because whatever you put into that doesn't come out.
So good.
And like, that's completely released. And the only way it comes back into your life is if I do it. And so it's like, okay, it's crying. You can have it. And it was something that he did miraculously. And I gave that to him. And then it was through a word from somebody that he said, you've given something up to God, and God wants you to give it back to you. And that's with your business. And that he's like, I see you doing things with your hands. And like, just like, he didn't know what he was talking about, but I did. And so I was like, okay, God. And like, that's what got us on this road in the first place. So
I think that for me in my life, the letting go and like letting God burn it up to the point where it's like you can't pick it back up off the altar. I get why that's the process. In fact, a friend of mine had sent me a picture, and it's this little girl, and she's like holding this teddy bear, and Jesus is like bent down, and he's asking for it. And she's like, but I love it. And he's saying like, just trust me. And behind his back, he's holding a bigger version of the teddy bear that she loves. And it's like, we get so attached to our version of dreams that God's like, if you just release it, I have something that is far better for you. That's not completely different than what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And I think that we think that it's going to be completely different. Like, God, if I surrender this dream of business, you're going to call me to like be a pastor or like go to the ministry fields or whatever. And it's like, no, God knows the desire of your hearts. Spoiler alert, he put them there.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that you desire this.
Yeah.
And in my life, when I lost my job at the church that I worked at, and I thought that everything was crumbling, God brought back a dream that I never thought would return to me. And that was the form of podcasting. And when the basement took off and I saw God breathing on this thing, it was like, God, I could have never even dreamt to ask you for this. I didn't know this existed. And you brought it back full circle and used things that I loved doing. Like I got into the podcast world with Chris Hyde, and I got into setting up and live streaming through like streaming video games. Like it was hobbies, right? Mm-hmm. But God was using it to build tools. And it was things, everything that is set up today comes from a little piece, a little fraction, or a shard of previous hobbies and previous dreams of my life.
Yeah.
To bring me to this spot, to place me here in Palestine, to be in such proximity with you guys in this season that I don't take for granted. And your storage is full on your on your phone. And so it's okay because we still have that camera as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, guys, we're navigating it in real time. Fun stuff. Just the little hurdles that we have to figure out. It's awesome. But the Lord has a way of not truly letting your dreams and stuff die. Mm-hmm. And you never know when he's going to bring it back. But to completely relinquish the control, it's a necessary thing, I think. Because I think as long as we at least perceive that we had anything to do with it, that will just fuel ego. That would just fuel pride.
Yeah.
And not give glory to God.
Yeah.
When I know for a fact I did nothing to make the basement successful. That was all God. Mm-hmm. I just got to be able to be on the ride. And that was so fun for that. I have no idea what God's going to do in the future. But he does all good things, right?
Yeah.
So we have to trust that. And is there anything you guys want to say before we close?
I don't think so.
I just want to say that I love Ruth. It was rude that she didn't say that.
Sorry. I love you too, baby.
It doesn't matter now.
Okay.
Well, I'm excited for you guys' life. And I'm excited to see the journey to your new daughter that's coming.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that that's on its way. And I don't think that there's anything you guys can do to prevent it.
Yeah.
I think it's literally just on its way.
I'm excited for her coming, and I'm also excited for your dreams being fulfilled. I'm excited that the season you're in here, it seems like a setback, but God's like about to launch you into so many things. And it was such a necessary part for you to be here in this season. And God's going to bring not only a wife, but a child and everything good out of it. Mm-hmm. And for the people watching, that the season you're in seems like hell right now, and God's going to bring good out of it. So, and I love Ruth. That's what I was saying.
My favorite thing was that you looked into a camera that's not recording.
I was looking off in the distance. We don't even know if
and we don't even know if that one's recording.
It probably has This Is Us playing right now, and that's about it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, guys, thank you for once again giving us some time and spending a whole conversation with us to kind of dig into and find perspective and find a different way to look at things. I hope that you guys have a wonderful time with that, whatever you're doing. I back myself into these corners where I'm like, thank you for spending this evening with me. And I'm like, they can listen to this in the morning time. I have no control over
Thank you for waking up during the middle of the night to listen to this.
Being alive, eating your Cheez-Its.
Thank you for mowing the yard right now and listening to this podcast.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.